Crimson Desert might be one of the most ambitious open world games that we've seen in years, but that ambition might also be its biggest risk, because the deeper previewers have dug into this game, the more systems that they keep discovering. And the reaction across almost every preview was the same word: overwhelming. Not overwhelmingly in a bad way, but overwhelming because there is simply so much happening in this world. You can raise animals, run a ranch, rebuild a faction camp, send companions on missions across the map, solve physics puzzles, or just puzzles in general, hunt wildlife, cook meals that boost your stats, craft gear from materials you gather in the world. So there's also mining. And that's before even touching the main story, which raises a serious question. Not whether Crimson Desert looks impressive, but whether it might actually be trying to do too much. So today, let's actually look at what this game is trying to juggle and give us a decision of, can this be too much to be played in one game? And truly, the deeper that you look into Crimson Desert, the more systems start stacking on top of each other. And not just the small mechanics, right? Entire gameplay loops. We've seen that we get to rebuild the Greymane faction camp, and with that is kind of more or less a dip into player housing. We get to expand it over time, gather resources from across the world that kind of attach itself to it, and then you have that faction camp allow you to do a lot more with it. You can raise animals and run a ranch in this same said faction camp to produce materials. And they've even said animal husbandry is part of this whole process, and you get to do a lot of, now I don't know if you get to like chase down specific stats like a la Pokemon, where, hey, you know, I'm trying to take these stats and put them together, and my allergies are killing me, so I sound terrible right now, I apologize. But those materials that we get from this ranch, they feed into the cooking and the crafting systems. You get to hunt wildlife across the world, and that is something that we've seen a lot in a lot of the preview footage too. Hunting wildlife and also mining and gathering materials directly from the environment in caves and what have you, then bringing these back to either the camp or town to craft more weapons, to craft more wares and get access to that. And it seems too like crafting in and of itself has a complex system. And then don't even forget to mention, that's a note for myself. There's also the witch's hut, where you get to then further take the items you craft and imbue them and make them more spectacular. And from the camp itself too, we can send companions across the map on missions. So they come back with resources and materials while you're doing something else. It's more of a passive system that runs asynchronous to what you're doing. And that's a huge boon. And then you've got the combat system, what we've talked about a million times in all my videos, but all the martial arts, the weapon combos, the elemental abilities, the environmental destruction, all that action kind of plays into that combat system. And also, you know, from that combat system, we have kind of an adjacent system where we get to throw enemies and swing objects. And that is part of the puzzling portions of this game, manipulating physics and objects within them, that we can use that in the puzzle portion of the game. And the game has plenty of emergent situations that keep kind of coming your way. Random NPC encounters, strange side activities, these puzzles that we have to go through because those puzzles are locked, or not, those puzzles are not locked, but those puzzles unlock the progression system for the game, right? You go through, you get these individual artifacts will then give you skills. But at a certain point, you kind of start to realize something, right? This isn't one just simple quote unquote RPG system, right? The developers even said this is not an RPG game. It's an open world genre. That's what they've said in a lot of their interviews. It's a half dozen other systems from other games, especially MMOs, all running at the same time. And historically, when a game tries to do everything like that, you lose a lot of focus and you overwhelm players. There's too many mechanics that are going on at once. And I think that this is kind of something that is really going to create a lot of tension, or at least a lot of pressure when it comes to playing these games. Think of like a Cyberpunk, and Cyberpunk has a million things to do. Think of a Red Dead Redemption, a million things to do. Think of an Ubisoft game, an Assassin's Creed, where you just have an exhaustion that kicks in when you're taking a look at going through one area, completing everything in that area, and then moving to the next area, and it's the same set of things to do. But this is something that was really interesting with what we've seen about the game, right? We've seen so many different parts and so many different systems, and people have called it overwhelming. They've called it mechanically dense. What if Crimson Desert really isn't expecting you to do all these things? And this is a pattern that keeps showing up in the previews, and they've all pretty much talked about everything I've talked about in this video. It's optional. They exist in the world, but they're not mandatory progression paths. You're not going to not get access to the best weapons because you're not crafting. You're not going to get access to the best whatever because you're not doing that. It seems that running a ranch and raising animals, or completely ignoring it and getting materials by hunting instead, is entirely up to you as the player. You can craft weapons and equipment, or simply just find gear while exploring the world. And exploring is a very big portion of this game. They said that exploring is kind of paramount to how you truly expand in the game, right? You observe other enemies to learn, or other even NPCs to learn skills. You explore and do puzzles to learn skills. You explore to find better gear. You can dispatch, all of these companions across the map on these missions, or ignore that system and just handle everything yourself. So you can send people on missions to go take over a fortress. They just go ahead and weaken it for you. You still have to go kind of capitulate it, but you could just simply do that entirely on your own. Even the puzzles scattered through the world, they appear to exist more as an optional explorational content, more or less so than actually forcing the player to do every single one of them. I'm sure there's some that are going to be definitely mandatory, but I think this kind of suggests something important about the design philosophy. Crimson Desert is not expecting you to engage with each and every single one of these systems. Instead, it's building a sandbox, and in that sandbox, you experience things how you want. And I know that's not a revolutionary concept, but I think that when we see so many of these games and we get bombarded with so many of these previews and these YouTube videos, it's really, God, my voice is rough right now. It's really easy. It's really easy to feel like you have to do every single one of those things that is thrown your way. Okay, I got to progress this fishing system. I got to get really good at blacksmithing. If I'm not a good miner, I'm not going to have the best weapons. But this is kind of something that is entirely different. They've said that these systems are there. You just leverage them if you want. I didn't even talk about the criminal system. There's a whole pickpocketing and criminal system that has got a huge thing attached to it as well. So this sandbox world is a world where different players interact with different parts of it. And I think that's going to be the most exciting thing about it, right? My experience of what I do in the world is not going to be the same as yours. And I think it's intoxicating. One player focusing on, combat, and another on exploration, and another on the progression systems of, say, just like the animal husbandry or whatever. All those things create a different narrative for my playstyle and your playstyle. The ambition might not be that players do everything. It might be that the world allows you to do all of these fun and interesting segues away from the actual main story. And that's why Crimson Desert's ambition is so interesting, because it cuts both ways. Some players will look at this with many systems and feel overwhelmed. We're all busy people. A lot of us are adults. A lot of us don't have the time to do stuff like this. And I think having a video like this that talks about the reality of having a bunch of systems and maybe too many mechanics and too many systems to learn is just a reality check that a lot of us need. This isn't not a cheap game. It's like an $80 game, right? $70, $80 game. And if you don't have the time to jump into that, I'd rather know before jumping in, right? But others will look at this the same world and see freedom, a sandbox full of possibilities for them to get lost in. But I think that the biggest thing with this, the most important thing to reinforce, is that these are optional things. So yeah, maybe you don't have the most time in the world. Cool, just go do the story. Or you know what? You just got laid off, got all the time in the world. You got plenty of systems to jump into. So if all these systems connect and reinforce each other, Crimson Desert could end up being one of the deepest open world games that we've seen in years. But if they clash, the game could feel chaotic and unfocused, which means the real question isn't whether Crimson Desert is ambitious. It really comes down to what I said earlier. It's whether players actually want open world game to be this ambitious. So let me know in the comment section below. Do you want RPGs that keep getting bigger and deeper like this? Or do you think games are already trying to do too much? Are you running into an open world genre, quote unquote, exhaustion, and you'd rather have a more focused on the rails RPG? Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. But be on the lookout for more Crimson Desert content coming your way. Also check out my Twitch in the link below, where you can go ahead and follow me. I will be doing streams of Crimson Desert when it goes live. Hopefully I will have all of these allergies figured out by then, because this sucks. But also, if you've not yet pre-ordered Crimson Desert and you do want to support the channel, you can use my Fanatical link in the description. You get like 15% off and I make a 7% commission. But as always, only pre-order if you're 100% sure you're going to get the game. But again, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.